Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2024. And specifically, I'd like to focus our attention on a wonderful set, a multi-disc set, Blu-ray set, which is what I have here at spine number 1206. And it is of a cycle of films from the extraordinary filmmaker artist Eric Rohmer. And this set is Eric Rohmer's Tales of the Four Seasons. Eric Rohmer, Contes des Quatre Saisons. And once again, I'm very sorry for my terrible pronunciation. But this cycle of films, this collection indeed, has 4 films. And so if it's okay with you, my dear friends, let us turn our attention to one such film. It is the second film in the order in terms of its the filmography or the chronology, release chronology. And this is a work which is described as being from the year 1992. And the film is written and directed by Eric Rohmer. And the name of the work is, once again, please pardon me for my very poor pronunciation, but I hope you can forgive me. But the name of the work is Contes d'hiver, or as it's known in English, A Tale of Winter. This is the utterly brilliant, sublime, beautiful work from the great Eric Rohmer, writer-director Eric Rohmer, and this is the work which is described as being from the year 1992. And among its great cast, we have people like Charlotte Verri and Frédéric Vandendriessche, and Hervé Furic, Michel Voletti, and others. I'm so sorry for my butchering of the pronunciation. I'm doing my very best, but I apologize profusely and sincerely. I hope you can forgive me. But this is the work, again, described as being from 92. It is part of the cycle of films known as Contes des Quatre Saisons, Tales of the Four Seasons, from Eric Rohmer. This being A Tale of Winter, Contes d'hiver, the second of the cycle of films, following, of course, A Tale of Springtime. Although it's an interesting thing to consider the jump from the season of springtime, from the earlier film, to now the season of winter. But there are many connections and many things that could be said in terms of the choice of the environment and the setting of winter, the way that the season is appearing as a thematic motif, and also as a direct motif, not just in terms of the season itself and the snow and the connection with the holiday, the festivities, the holiday season and New Year's, but also the connection with Shakespeare, The Winter's Tale, which is made direct and made bare and made quite prominent, not just in the title itself, but please note the difference of le conte or conte, which I think is something that was pointed out in one of the supplements, which we'll talk about a little bit later. A very interesting difference. But I think it's also true here in terms of a tale as it's known in English, or A Tale of Winter versus The Tale of Winter. But the distinction between Eric Rohmer's tale and Shakespeare's story. But there are certain similarities that are, I think, made manifest in a lot of the ways in which Shakespeare itself is expressed. And it leads one to question and ponder the role of spirituality, the role of faith and belief and resurrection, and how that has a direct influence, impact on our lives in the kind of day-to-day reality of the various choices that one has to make, or the characters that we meet are confronted with. So there's this idea of the theme of resurrection and belief, and those concepts might themselves appear to be, I mean, they're very important, and they have a certain sense of gravity about them, but they're also very maybe amorphous, on the one hand, but they also the amorphous nature of these concepts finds or it manifests itself into some kind of corporeal meaning and form via the actual way in which these concepts have the potential of affecting, in real terms, the life choices of the main characters that we meet. Specifically, I'm referring to our main character here, which is who is Félicie, and also her daughter. Now, to take a step back, if you're to try to talk about the story structure or plot of this film, immediately we are introduced to Félicie, but not just Félicie, we also see her in a very strong romantic relationship, which we understand too is a very brief one. But it's filled with a lot of passion, a lot of love, mutually so, between Félicie, the young woman, and a young man, Charles. And it is very intimate, it's very physical, sexual, and again, there's so much of an outpouring of love in a beautiful way. And we can sense the happiness and the joy of these two. And these are in the opening moments of the film. Now, there's also a moment where they have to separate. They have to go off in their separate ways for certain circumstances of their situations at the time. But they promise or they will endeavor to meet again because they really want to. And so they exchange addresses in the hopes that they can keep in touch. But my goodness, such is fate, perhaps. But a mistake happens, and the address details that we will find out later in certain areas were incorrect, and so they weren't able to maintain contact, and so unfortunately that connection was lost. 5 years later, we are still with Félicie, and we also understand that she is raising her young daughter in Paris. And we also understand there's aspects of her profession, which we'll get into a little bit later in this discussion. But 5 years have passed. And now that we meet her, there is the season of winter, the festivity of the holiday season leading to the end of the year. And the wonder and excitement of it and the magic of the season, but also the sense of longing and yearning, loss, regret, and type of in terms of mistakes of life and the chance or lack of chance in life, etc. But confronting it head on and confronting with a sense of, of hope and belief, but also with a sense of realism and a sense of practicality, because not only do we find that Félicie, the young woman, needs to care for her daughter in this way, but also we find that Félicie is in the midst of certain relationships with other men that we meet. One being Loïc, and the other being Maxence. And my goodness, what a what a set of, say, predicaments or a set of circumstances we have here. Because on the one hand, we understand that Félicie's relationship with Loïc, who is an intellectual, who has a certain degree of charm and wit about him, but there is also a admitted distance between them, perhaps more from her side rather than from his side. He acknowledges his and he professes his love and devotion to her on the one hand, but maybe her degree of feeling towards him isn't of the same level. But she still respects him and she still is with him as a companion that could be a potential life companion or intimate companion, but she's not sure yet, and neither are we. But there are moments nonetheless of a certain connection between them, though he does have points that are expressed in the film where maybe his intellectual conversations with his other friends and colleagues might be of a degree that might not necessarily be things that Félicie herself is able to engage with directly. It reminds us too of a similar type of dialogue that happened between the four main characters of the earlier film, A Tale of Springtime, Conte de Printemps. So that might be an indication of a bridge or a gulf between Félicie and Loïc on the one hand. But there are also moments where his intellect and his love of arts and literature and theater really guide her as well. And this is where Shakespeare comes in, because again, it's through that relationship that we and she become acquainted with Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale. And the key moment, or one of the key moments of the tale as it's depicted in this film, has to do with faith and belief and passion, and also resurrection. So, and that has a direct bearing potentially on the life and choices of Félicie. Speaking of choices, there's also the other man in Félicie's life, and this is the character of Maxence. And Maxence, we understand, is the hair salon success, hairdresser. But his success now means that he will be moving, and he will be going to the place of Nevers, and he has asked Félicie to join him and to be together. And to make a life together in Nevers. And so Félicie is confronted with a choice. Should she be with Loïc? Should she go with Maxence? Or should she forego either option and instead hold out in the belief, in the hope, however unlikely it might be, that maybe some kind of miracle could happen, in that maybe she might be reacquainted, reunited with Charles, the man that she has been thinking about for these past 5 years, but she hasn't been able to meet. And not least of which because of the presence of her daughter, who's very important to her. So a lot of things are happening here in the context of Félicie's life and her life choices, and what she makes of her life choices, and how it affects not just her but also her daughter. And I mentioned the idea of spirituality and belief and faith, and how it's expressed and made manifest in sort of the day-to-day routines of Félicie and company. I think this is really important, and it's done in a way that's tied very nicely to the festivities of the season. December, the end of the year, winter, also adding to the air of ambiance and magic. That also is connected to the place of Nevers, Maxence's new location. And how there might be something implicit in that choice in terms of saintliness and sainthood, and also the belief in miracles, and whether or not that belief can find some kind of corporeal expression in maybe hopefully meeting one day with this man that she truly expressed a devotion and love of the very start of the film, Charles. So, or maybe it won't happen, and maybe miracles won't happen, and maybe she'll be left to always wonder, always question, always imagine, and always regret the mistakes that were made. If only the address was correct, but c'est la vie, as the phrase goes. Or maybe something will happen. Who knows? Maybe something unexpected will happen. Who knows? Maybe this is also an indication of her own journey, Félicie's journey, how she is maybe swept up in certain choices that she's asked to make, but maybe she doesn't really want to make those choices, but maybe she feels compelled to for reasons that are beyond her control. Or will she be able to take control of her own destiny? Will she be able to make those choices that she wants to make? Not because other people want her to make them for them, but because she wants to make them for herself, and also for her family, for her daughter. And in that way, it becomes a story of a potentially a story about a feeling of liberation, a feeling of a true expression of her individual will, and whether or not she will succeed in that expression of individual, which is itself a very beautiful story indeed. This film, A Tale of Winter, is so inviting and so warm, and it's lovely, absolutely lovely. The performances here are top notch, and I love the banter between the characters. I love the way sometimes that Félicie is seen to be frustrated. Sometimes it comes out in certain key moments in her relationship, for instance, with Loïc, or her relationship with Maxence, etc. And there are moments too where she is seen to be silent and alone, maybe sitting in public transportation, alone, looking out the window. We're asked to wonder what it is she's thinking and feeling. I mean, this performance, Charlotte Valley's performance is superb. It's truly superb. I mean, there's the hint of disappointment and regret, and disappointment in herself in terms of the mistake that she made with regard to the address. If only she didn't make that mistake. That type of feeling, you can feel it in the look, but it's not overly shown. It's just there, just right. um, and you can tell the sense of urgency, a sense of wanting to make a choice, and the kind of thought and care and almost agonizing way that she is making this choice, or considering this choice, or these choices, as well as always holding out the hope. I mean, this performance is complex in its scope and diversity. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. I mean, I love it truly. It's really quite remarkable. So um, we have the hopes and the aspirations of a lot of things that are happening here. So it is a very warm and beautiful and charming story indeed. A very, very charming story. And one that I think is filled with a lot of heart and a lot of warmth, and also the twists and turns and the suspense, and the kind of a feeling of possibility and what if, and that possibility made even more gut wrenching, because one wouldn't be in this position had one not made that simple mistake and error of the address writing, etc. This is pre smartphone days, etc. So it's not like one could have found another on the internet. Though I think the internet connections has its own set of issues and perils, at least in terms of romantic drama and romantic comedy settings, that's for sure. But there is a lot of wonderful and happenstance, and there's going back to the idea of faith and resurrection. This is a great thing about this film and how it sits into the Tales of the Four Seasons, in that there are similarities with the earlier film A Tale of Springtime, and there are similarities that one can say will exist with the other two films that we will talk about in the cycle. But it also stands on its own in a way that I think it is dealing with academic themes of resurrection and Shakespeare, but it's doing it in a way that's very direct, and in a way too that is very accessible. Felicie, she acknowledges she's not necessarily of the same degree of high intellectualism as, say, Loic is, for instance, and she acknowledges this. But she does make the earnest effort to try to learn and try to engage and understand. And one of the most beautiful moments in this film is where she is discovering Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale, and how she feels it has the potential of affecting her own life, really, truly, profoundly. Uh, I mean, Shakespeare employed in this way in the film. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I enjoy Shakespeare very much, and I'm not the biggest Shakespeare expert, but I do enjoy Shakespeare very much, and so I enjoy it when I see Shakespeare engaged with in cinema. But there's a real magical way that Shakespeare is used here. The Winter's Tale is used here, not just as an expression of affection towards Shakespeare's drama, but in a way it is itself affecting uh, uh, the outlook and worldview of a character, one of the main characters, is also affecting the way that this character is regarding herself. And if we think about her choices as being maybe an expression of what it is that she's looking for, what it is that she's yearning, in other words, herself and her own motivations and who she is, then Shakespeare affecting her or helping her to find a certain guiding light in how it is she is going to lead her life. This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The Winter's Tale in A Winter's Tale, or Tale of Winter. I am incredibly impressed with this indeed. So, it's one of these questions about, and it's a hard question to ask too. Which is your favorite tale of the Four Seasons? I feel like so far, when I watch the films now, thanks to this great Criterion box set, or this collector set, What's my favorite season of A Tale of the Four Seasons of Eric Rohmer? It's the film that I'm watching at the moment. So if you asked me yesterday, it would have been A Tale of Springtime. If you asked me today, it's A Tale of Winter. If you asked me tomorrow, A Tale of Summer. If you asked me the day after tomorrow, A Tale of Autumn. But that's how beautiful and lovely and wonderful these films are. And Tale of Winter is no exception. It is a glorious film. A really beautiful, glorious film from Eric Rohmer. I love this film very much. This is the work which is Contes d'hiver, or A Tale of Winter. The Criterion Collection has released this film, Contes d'hiver, or A Tale of Winter, as part of this multi-disc Blu-ray set. It is on the second disc, and it is also accompanied with some supplements, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this video. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the presentation. So first of all, I should be sure to mention that A Tale of Winter has an aspect ratio of 1.66 to 1, which is the same aspect ratio as A Tale of Springtime, by the way. And in terms of the presentation details itself about the master, on page 26 of the very great stapled, many pages, robust booklet from Criterion, it says about the masters: the new digital masters presented here were created at Digimage in Paris from the 35mm original camera negatives for A Tale of Springtime, A Tale of Summer, and A Tale of Autumn, and from the 16mm original camera negative for A Tale of Winter, and restored in 2K resolution. The original monaural soundtracks were remastered from the magnetic tracks. So I love this. I love how it looks and sounds. You know, I am admittedly not the biggest expert in terms of the release history of the Tales of the Four Seasons, and that includes A Tale of Winter. So my frame of reference is very shallow, and in fact, not just limited, but practically non-existent. But I can recall, and I have to recall my memories of seeing this film before in terms of my own frame of reference. But with that context, I must say that I love the way it looks and sounds here. There is and again, I said this in the earlier discussion of A Tale of Springtime, but let me say the word here, and I mean this 100% in a complimentary way. The framing and approach and style, cinematic style, is very modest, and I love that. I really love its modesty. I mean, it seems very almost it's kind of nonchalant or matter of fact. Seemingly simple setups, nothing overly grandiose in terms of sweeping, moving camera gestures, or an overabundance of, say, an overly zestful cinematic style, so to speak. I mean, everything is very matter of fact and very modest and very direct, but that takes nothing away. Nothing is taken away in terms of the power of its poetry. In fact, it enhances and augments the poetry, because it allows, I think, for not just us to listen to the commanding nature of the words and the dialogue, and the dialogue is very important, and indeed sometimes verbosity in the world of Eric Rohmer is incredibly important, but also just as important as the verbosity is the silence, and just as important as the words is the moments of being alone, the quiet, the personal, the introspective. So, and we get all of that here, and it's done in a way that doesn't feel overly intrusive in terms of the presentation. On the contrary, it feels just right. So, I very much am taken with the way it looks and sounds indeed. And I have the Blu-ray in the machine here, and it's got a wonderful Blu-ray menu, which I'll make note of. I should point out, however, that maybe it could be said that one of the images might be a slight spoiler of sorts. Who knows? So just for the sake of just in case, I've blocked out with an image. I've just blocked out the photo montage aspect of the Blu-ray menu, just in case. Again, maybe it's considered to be maybe a mild spoiler or not, but I don't, just in case, I've just covered it for purposes of the video presentation today. I hope you don't mind. I apologize in advance for that, but that's why I'll block it off here when I edit this video together. But I do have the Blu-ray in the machine here, and so in addition to the film, we have supplements. We have two supplements here. First up, we have Eric Rohmer on A Tale of Winter. And it's described here as, in this excerpted audio interview conducted by film critic Michel Simon in 1992, director Eric Rohmer discusses the making of the second installment of The Tales of the Four Seasons. That second installment being, of course, A Tale of Winter, 1992. This is approximately 11 minutes. And it's again an audio excerpt, and we've got the image of the moving rolls of tape, which is really cool. This is really great. This can be said to be A Tale of Winter specific. And he goes into some detail, and the discussion between the two with asking in the interview with Eric Rohmer is going into some specifics of A Tale of Winter, which is great. Really, really great. There's a discussion here almost immediately about Shakespeare and The Tale of Winter and the difference in terms of the Conte d'hiver and Le Conte d'hiver. And so I wasn't fully aware of the French title of the Shakespeare play. So it was interesting to hear that distinction. So it's very cool indeed to get that. But there's also the idea of spirituality and faith and belief and resurrection that's expressed in the specific passage that is quoted from Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale, and also some passages and reminiscence and connections with some earlier works of Eric Rohmer, such as the Green Ray. The Green Ray is mentioned here, and connections maybe with Félicie on the one hand and some other characters, Delphine the other, which is interesting, especially for those who know this great film by Eric Rohmer, The Green Ray. There's also the discussion about why Nevers, what's the significance of the choice of Nevers, this very significant place in France. And the idea of saintliness and sainthood being connected there, but also taking that as an extension or a jumping off point to apply that to a sort of practical application of the concept of miracles and faith and belief, and whether or not that might find expression in the day-to-day lives of the characters we meet, such as Félicie. So I think that's a very interesting, exciting choice here. There's also the idea of waiting for something, yearning for something, longing for something, and will it come or not? There's a deep sense of suspense there. And if it does, when it does, if at all, what will happen? Will something occur? Will nothing occur? So all these questions arise that add a great deal of entertainment and suspense, which is, I think, remarked upon by Eric Rohmer here really wonderfully. And then the idea of other kind of the painterly aspect of the framing, the structure of it, the style. Renoir is mentioned here. Rossellini is mentioned here as well, which I think makes Rohmer quite visibly happy indeed. So a great discussion. A really great discussion. A Tale of Winter specific. So please check it out if you can. The audio excerpt, which is again approximately 11 minutes. So that's the first supplement that we can find. Next, we have something which is called For Collaborators. This is great. This is really great. It says here, and I quote, "This program features interviews with 4 of Eric Rohmer's collaborators about their roles in the filmmaking process. Producer Françoise Echegaray, editor Mary Stephen, cinematographer Diane Baratier, and sound engineer Pascal Ribier offer glimpses into what it was like to work alongside one of cinema's most original auteurs." This is approximately 46 minutes. This supplement is fantastic. This is really fantastic. So we get the perspective of these 4 artists who worked on various projects with Eric Rohmer, and they talk about their interactions with Eric Rohmer, first meeting Eric Rohmer, and then eventually how they ended up working with Eric Rohmer in this way on the crew in their various capacities in their roles as artists. And so they each bring with them their own stories, their own anecdotes, which is fascinating. And it then leads into discussions of Tales of the Four Seasons overall. Not just Tales of the Four Seasons. There was also some discussion of some of the films and some of the other cycles. Some films, for instance, in the Comedies and Proverbs cycle are referred to and mentioned here as well. So really great reference point, really fantastic reference point. It could also be said to be a kind of introduction into the world of Eric Rohmer for those who are yearning for some more information, a jumping off point into Eric Rohmer's cinema. So this is a great introduction in that way. Also in that way, I should point out that it might be best served to watch this supplement after you have seen all of the films in the Tales of the Four Seasons cycle. Not just Tale of Winter, but also all the others. So my strong suggestion is to watch A Tale of Springtime, A Tale of Winter, A Tale of Summer, and then A Tale of Autumn. And then you can watch this supplement, which is, I think, very comprehensive in that way. It's really great. I mean, for instance, talking about the importance of editing, you know, with Mary Stevens' discussion here, and how she ended up studying, wanting to, and then how Eric Rohmer really helped her in what she wanted to do and where she wanted to live and stay in here. And so Eric Rohmer allowed her this career opportunity, and it changed her career and changed her life for the better, as she acknowledges here. And also Francois Etchegaray, in terms of her producing credits, a very important role, and talking about her interactions with Eric Rohmer dating back to an earlier great film from Rohmer called The Green Ray. And the other artists here, Baratier and Ribier, talking about their interactions with working with the great Eric Rohmer, and how he gave so much room for sort of artistic integrity and also space for choice. And also there's a real close-knit quality to the crew. It's a very small number of persons on the crew, and it's a very low-key affair, as everyone mentions. And also in terms of editing, there's a way in which that itself also is a kind of its own separate mode of the artistic process of Eric Rohmer, but the collaborative connection between Rohmer on the one hand and his the four artists that he's working with here, who are, for instance, being interviewed for this great documentary. It just shows the depth of, say, trust and faith, yes, that Eric Rohmer has for his collaborators, and vice versa as well. Also said that there's some really great and interesting details about the personal life of Eric Rohmer. Eric Rohmer's real name versus his stage name as an artist, as a filmmaker, and how he seemed to have compartmentalized his life so that the people of his, say, of his family life, and the people and the circle of his associates in his professional life, they never really met until maybe after he had passed away, and sort of funeral services and the like. And so sometimes it made for some very interesting anecdotes about meeting people for the first time who were very close associates in their own ways with Eric Rohmer, but the compartments never really met during Eric Rohmer's lifetime. So it's an interesting way in which to understand, or maybe begin to try to understand, not just the artist Eric Rohmer, but the human being that is Eric Rohmer. And there's some indication as to that type of compartmentalization. And I mean, it's an interesting, really, really fascinating biography of a fascinating artist, Eric Rohmer. And again, this documentary serves as a wonderful jumping off point for anyone who maybe wants to know more. So in that way, I think it's a great primer and a great introduction to the world of Eric Rohmer in that way. So yes, it's great. This is really great. What did I say in the running time? Approximately 46 minutes, excuse me. Please check this out if you can. It is wonderful. And then let me also round out the discussion with the booklet. It's a staple booklet, as I mentioned earlier in this video discussion. The Tale of Winter pages are pages 6 and 7, and so you'll find Tale of Winter pages here, together with the picture montage, which is the same as what we have in the Blu-ray, and then also information about cast and credits, and then a synopsis here. The comprehensive essay, the great essay, is by Imogen Sarah Smith. It does talk about the entire cycle overall, so I'll save my comments specifically on this essay for another video discussion. But suffice to say, there are some sections that could be said to be A Tale of Winter specific, so just keep that in mind as well. But I think the essay, like this For Collaborators supplement, perhaps is best served upon reading after having seen all of the films in the Tale of the Four Seasons cycle, so just keep that in mind. But I'll mention a little bit more of that when we get to a discussion of the great Imogen Sarah Smith essay in a later video. Wow, okay, so that's it for now when it comes to A Tale of Winter. But yeah, this is a great film. This is a really great film. Eric Rohmer is one of the greats, and it's lovely to have this. It's lovely to have this film here, and it's great to have these supplements. Maybe on paper, the quantity of supplements might not seem like a lot, and that might be true also in a certain regard of the other films that we will talk about on this disc set. But we'll talk a little bit more about the supplements overall, my impressions of the supplements in that later video discussion when we talk about other points of this release. But suffice to say, at least for now, let me say that the supplements here all go towards a further understanding into the art and life of Eric Rohmer to a certain degree. And the insights given in the audio interview excerpt really go a long way. They really do. And the film itself, going back to the film itself, it is sublime. It is beautiful. It is touching. It is warm. It's quizzical, and it's wondrous. It's also mysterious. And it has an ethereal quality, an enigmatic quality, and a very poetic quality that is so apropos Eric Rohmer. Tales of the Four Seasons, this being a tale of winter. Yes, so my dear friends, that's it for now. So until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies, such as A Tale of Winter, such as other films in the Tales of the Four Seasons, such as other films in the Criterion Collection, such as other Eric Rohmer films, and beyond. So until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.